You are not as smart as you think you are. I know you think you're the smartest person in the world, but I guarantee you there's always somebody smarter. And this smarter person, I heard a speech, okay guys, I'm part of a historical literature club, and not because I'm a good writer. I'm a horrible writer. You can't even find someone that's worse than me as a writer. But I'm in this club to learn to write, to get better at it. And during one of the meetings, I listened to this speech that PhD Oleg Maltsev had made, and I translated the whole speech into English because I've never seen anybody of this level discuss something and put something into a certain system in the English speaking world. So I had to translate it, and I'm gonna leave a link to the translated speech, which I posted on my page just a few minutes ago. So this speech talks about why people gather into clubs or groups. So hear me out here. This is really interesting, okay? So, and it's also very philosophical. So let's go ahead and get in. So there's a few stages, okay? So when something is born, when somebody creates something, say a poem, okay? We'll start with a poem. That poem does not exist until somebody reads it, until somebody else can comprehend it. So just because you wrote a poem and you know that you wrote a poem, it still doesn't exist to this world. That's just how the human and the world memory works. It just doesn't exist. As soon as, and that's when the club comes into play. You get a gathering of people to listen to your poem. So now that they have listened to the poem, you kind of gave birth to it. At that point, it was born. And then the second stage is the appraisal. So, say some kind of a scientist made something up that's completely brand new, that doesn't exist, that nobody's done before. And at this stage, the appraisal kind of becomes difficult, okay? Because an appraiser, someone who's going to be able to tell you, is this a good thing or a bad thing, or it's going to work, it's not going to work, they have to be on the same level as the person that created it. So you can't take an appraisal of your art or whatever you've created from the same people that were just there listening to it or comprehending it or looking at it. So this has to be a different level of people. They have to be on your level to be able to appraise it, or higher than you. And the third level is the duel. So there was a lot of examples made in the speech that I translated to English, and please do read it. There's a lot of actual examples, because the step number 2, the appraisal could be high, and everybody could be convinced that this one poet is better than the other. But in the end, or not in the end, but during a duel, that's when you can actually see who really is the best. One of the examples that was mentioned in this speech was between Pushkin and Vysotsky. It was two poets of the Soviet Union. Well, Pushkin was, I believe, way before the Soviet Union. And but anyway, so what was compared to, everybody, if you would ask any Russian-speaking person, they would say Pushkin, he is definitely a better poet. But when we take a look at their funeral, we see that, that Vysotsky, he won that duel. So he is the better poet, because he had the whole country come to his funeral and basically just proved the fact that he is better. That's a duel. You have a duel between two systems. Say you have two pieces of art and you just duke it out. You show it to people, to the same group of people, and you make them decide. Even though the appraiser before said that this piece of art is better, the duel can show otherwise. So that's the step number 3. And step number 4 is how long something lives for. So your creation, how long did it live for? How long did people remember it for? Was it just a year, 5 years, 10 years? Some creations live for hundreds of years. Some never die. And that's also, something that is even, it goes even further than the dual, is the time frame of how long something exists for. So this is, but again, this is just a broad explanation of it. If you really want to get into detail, just read the article that I wrote. To me, that was really interesting, these 4 steps of kind of why people gather. First of all, if they don't, nothing can be born, because there's no one to comprehend your creation. And then from there on, there's all those, the rest of the 3 steps. I wanted to share that with you guys because, like I said, I've never heard somebody explain it in such a way. If you just go out there and ask somebody, why do people gather in groups? Oh, they like to talk bullshit about the same subjects, or, they got something in common. You'll never get an explanation like this with just step by step why they actually gather, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to give birth to any creations. If a person just by himself, there's no group around him, he can create something, but it doesn't really, he doesn't really give birth to it because nobody knows about it. And yeah, I really wanted to get that out there. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.